where the alphas rule the city, but our heroines always get the last word. Quick question for the pack before we dive into today's chaos. Where are you listening from right now? Let me know in the comments, and drop a cat emoji if your pet is currently judging your audiobook choices, just like Flaire judges Jennifer in today's story. Today, we have a wild one. It is funny, it is packed with tension, and it involves a desperate gossip blogger who tells the worst lie on live television, and the terrifying billionaire alpha who kicks a door down to claim her. But before we start, if you want to support the channel and get early access to stories just like this, hit that join button down below. It helps us keep the lights on and the stories coming. Now grab your coffee and guard your secrets. The cameras are flashing, and the alpha just crashed the stage. Let's read. Chapter 1. Jennifer backed into a small wooden table, her knuckles turning white as she gripped her canvas tote bag. Inside the bag, her battered silver laptop held the key to her survival. The gossip blog she ran was a sinking ship. She needed a viral hit to pay off the crushing debt her late mother left behind, or she would be sleeping on the streets by Friday. Right now, the hit was coming at her in the form of 5 aggressive news reporters shoving microphones in her face. I am going to talk my way right into a grave, she thought. Is it true? A reporter shouted over the din of the crowded coffee shop. Did you date the city's most elusive billionaire? Jennifer chewed her bottom lip. The flashing camera bulbs blinded her. She felt out of place in her faded green thrifted sweater and scuffed brown combat boots. Her messy auburn hair sat in a crooked bun on top of her head. She looked like a street rat cornered by a pack of hungry wolves. Her free hand tightened around the handle of her velvet pet stroller. Inside the dark carriage, her rescue cat, Flaire, let out an annoyed meow. Yes, Jennifer blurted out. The lie slipped past her teeth before she could stop it. He is my ex. We broke up. The reporters gasped, their recorders pushing closer. Keep talking, Jenny. Keep lying. Save the blog. He was toxic, she added, finding a reckless rhythm. A total control freak. He could not handle a strong, independent woman. Crash. The coffee shop door splintered as a heavy boot kicked it wide open. The shattered lock clattered across the linoleum floor. All chatter died. The silence hit the room like a sudden drop in air pressure. Human survival instincts kicked in, telling the reporters to shut their mouths and step back. They parted like the sea, making a clear path. In walked Maverick. He wore a tailored midnight blue suit that looked sharp enough to draw blood. Jet black hair framed a cold, unreadable face. A pale, jagged scar cut straight through his right eyebrow, giving him the look of a seasoned street fighter stuffed into high fashion. He brought a heavy, suffocating pressure with him. Maverick stopped just inside the doorway. He flared his nostrils. He smelled it the second he crossed the threshold. The bitter ash of a dirty lie coated the back of his throat. Beneath it hid the sour sweat of pure terror radiating from the woman standing by the table. He did not break eye contact as he strode forward. The crowd scrambled out of his way. He stopped inches from Jennifer, his towering frame casting a shadow over her. I'm not her past, Maverick stated. His voice hummed with a dark, terrifying calm. He reached out, wrapped a strong arm around her waist, and yanked her flush against his side. I'm her future. The cameras erupted. Flashes turned the coffee shop into a strobe light. Who the hell is this guy? Jennifer panicked. Her heart hammered a frantic beat against her ribs. She forced a stiff, bright smile for the lenses. She leaned close to his ear, pretending to whisper sweet nothings. Who are you, and why are you grabbing me? Maverick looked right at the cameras. He reached up with his free hand and rubbed the heavy platinum signet ring on his thumb. The man you are engaged to. Smile, sweetheart, or my lawyers will drain your bank account to zero before dinner. Before Jennifer could process the threat, a sleek black and white paw shot out of the velvet stroller. Smack! Flaire, wearing a literal red velvet bow tie, hit the giant man right on the bridge of his nose. It was a flat-pawed slap. No claws, just pure, sophisticated feline disrespect. The reporters gasped in shock. Maverick went dead still. He did not blink. He rubbed his nose slowly. I missed the little guy. He shifted his grip on Jennifer, his fingers digging a warning into her waist. He grabbed the handle of the pet stroller with his other hand. No more questions, Maverick told the room. We are leaving. He dragged her toward the broken doorway. Jennifer stumbled over her boots, trying to keep up with his long strides. She shot one last panicked look at the cameras, realizing her fake story just became a very real nightmare. Chapter 2. The tinted windows of the blacked-out armored SUV rolled up, sealing them inside a quiet, leather-scented tomb. Jennifer scrambled to the far side of the back seat. She hugged her tote bag to her chest and pulled the pet stroller close to her knees. Her hand dove into her bag and wrapped around a small canister of pepper spray. It was completely empty, but she held it anyway for fake confidence. Maverick sat on the opposite end of the wide seat. He did not look at her. He unbuttoned his suit jacket, reached into the inside pocket, and pulled out a thick stack of folded legal papers. You wrote a very creative article about me this morning, Maverick said. His voice stayed low, never rising above a conversational hum. I write a gossip blog, Jennifer shot back, trying to keep her voice from shaking. It is satire, parody. It falls under free speech. Maverick tossed the papers onto the space between them. That is a cease and desist order, followed by a lawsuit that will take your blog, your rusty blue Honda Civic, and every penny you owe to the bank. Jennifer stared at the papers. Her stomach twisted into knots. You came to the coffee shop to sue me? I came to ruin you, he corrected, but plans change. The SUV took a sharp corner, speeding through the city streets. Maverick smoothed a hand over his tie. My family runs a very tight, very private corporation, he explained, watching her with cold, calculating eyes. The board of directors is breathing down my neck. They think I am too wild, too unattached. They want me to settle down and take a partner, or they will vote me out and hand my empire to a rival family. What does that have to do with me? You just told 5 news outlets that we had a passionate, toxic romance, Maverick said. My grandmother happened to be watching the live broadcast. If I crush you on television, I look like a monster and the board strips my title. So, we are going to fix this. Jennifer let go of the empty pepper spray. Fix it how? Maverick leaned forward. You are going to be my fake fiancé. We will smile for the cameras, hold hands, and pretend we are fixing our broken relationship. We stay together until the board gets off my back. Once my position is secure, we fake a quiet, mutual breakup. And if I say no? What if I roll down this window and scream for help? Then I file the lawsuit, Maverick replied, leaning back into his seat. You lose your home by the end of the week. Choose your poison, Jennifer. How does he know my name? She wondered, feeling a chill run down her spine. I don't know the first thing about high society, she argued. I buy my clothes from thrift bins. I survive on instant noodles. They will see right through me. I will teach you how to act, he said. He reached into his pocket again and pulled out a silver pen. He held it out to her. Sign the contract. I haven't even read it. It says you belong to me for the next 3 months, and in exchange I clear your mother's debt. Jennifer froze. Her heart skipped a beat. You can wipe out the debt? I can do it with 1 phone call, Maverick promised. She looked at the silver pen. She looked at the smirking, arrogant man holding it. She needed that money. She needed a clean slate. With a shaky breath, Jennifer reached across the leather seat. She snatched the pen from his grip, grabbed the legal papers, and flipped to the back page. She scribbled her name on the dotted line. Maverick took the papers back, folding them neatly. Welcome to the family. Chapter 3. The private elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. Jennifer stepped out, hauling her canvas tote bag over her shoulder. She pushed the velvet stroller over the threshold and into the penthouse. She stopped dead in her tracks. The place was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glowing city skyline. Everything looked expensive, cold and untouched, like a museum exhibit rather than a home. "Put your things down," Maverick ordered, stepping past her. He took off his suit jacket and tossed it over the back of a pristine white sofa. Jennifer walked over to a thick glass coffee table. She set her tote bag down carefully, making sure the battered silver laptop inside did not clunk too hard against the glass. She unzipped the mesh screen on the stroller. "Come on out, buddy. Welcome to our new prison." Flaire hopped out. The tuxedo cat stretched his front legs, gave the room a quick look, and trotted straight toward the kitchen. Maverick walked over to the front door. He punched a code into the digital keypad. A heavy deadbolt slid into place with a loud, final click. "First rule of this arrangement," Maverick said, turning to face her. "You do not leave this penthouse without me or one of my security guards. The press is already swarming the lobby downstairs." "I have a life," Jennifer argued, crossing her arms. "I have to get to a coffee shop to upload my articles. The Wi-Fi at my old place is broken." "You have Wi-Fi here. You work from the couch," he countered. "Second rule, you do not talk about our deal to anyone. If my grandmother finds out this is a setup, she will ruin us both." Jennifer rolled her eyes. "Fine. Rule number 3, you stay out of my way and I stay out of yours. Where is the guest room?" Maverick crossed his arms. "There is no guest room." Jennifer blinked. "This place takes up the entire top floor of the building. How is there no guest room?" "I knocked down the walls to make a home gym," he said flatly. "There is only one bedroom, one bed." "I am not sleeping in the same bed as you," she snapped, her face flushing hot. "You will," Maverick stated. He walked toward the kitchen, his heavy boots making no sound on the hardwood floor. "The cleaning staff comes in every morning. My security team checks the rooms. If they see you sleeping on the sofa, word gets back to my grandmother that we are fighting." Before Jennifer could yell at him, she saw the ultimate betrayal. Maverick sat down on a bar stool. Flaire jumped right up onto his lap. The snobby, man-hating rescue cat let out a loud purr and pushed his head against the giant man's hand, demanding affection. "Traitor," Jennifer thought, glaring at the furball. "Your cat likes me," Maverick noted, scratching Flaire right behind the ears. "He has terrible taste in men," Jennifer muttered. She rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. "I want a pillow wall down the middle of the mattress. If you cross the line, I will punch you in the throat." Maverick let out a low, rough chuckle. It was a sound that rumbled deep in his chest. "You can try." He pointed down the long hallway. "Bathroom is on the left. Towels are in the cabinet. Wash up. We have a long day tomorrow." Jennifer grabbed her tote bag off the glass table. She marched down the hall, her boots thudding against the floorboards. She reached the bedroom, stepped inside, and slammed the door shut behind her. There was only one king-sized bed sitting in the center of the room. She dropped her bag, groaned, and fell face first onto the mattress. Chapter 4. Morning sunlight poured through the giant windows, pulling Jennifer from a deep sleep. She cracked one eye open. She was alone in the king-sized bed. A quick glance around the room told her Maverick was already up. The pillow wall she built last night was untouched. She dragged herself out from under the covers, tossed on the same clothes from yesterday, and shuffled out into the hallway. The sound of low, tense voices came from the living room. Jennifer peeked around the corner. Maverick stood by the glass coffee table, holding a mug of black coffee. Another man stood across from him. The stranger was built like a tank, with broad shoulders and a scowl that looked permanently etched into his face. This was Garrison, the beta, the right hand. "You brought a human into the territory," Garrison growled, pacing across the rug. "A weak, loud-mouthed human. The elders are losing their minds, Maverick. You are supposed to pick a Luna, someone who can fight." Jennifer froze behind the wall. Luna? Territory? What kind of corporate jargon is that? Maverick took a sip of his coffee. He did not look worried. "She serves a purpose." Garrison stopped pacing. He tilted his head back, taking a deep breath through his nose. His face contorted in disgust. "She reeks," Garrison sneered. "She smells like cheap soap and fear. There is no power in her blood. She is a liability. One scratch from a rival and she bleeds out on the floor. Get rid of her." Jennifer felt a spike of anger burn through her chest. She stepped out from behind the wall. "I use thrift store soap because I am broke, not because I enjoy it," Jennifer snapped, marching into the living room. "And if you have a problem with me, you can say it to my face, meathead." Garrison whipped his head toward her. He took a threatening step forward, baring his teeth. A low rumble echoed in his throat. It sounded less like a man and more like a wild animal cornered in an alley. Jennifer's fake bravery faltered. She took a step back, hitting the edge of the hallway wall. "Enough!" The word ripped through the room. Maverick did not shout. He did not raise his voice, but the command carried a heavy, unseen weight. The alpha voice slammed into the room, forcing the air out of Jennifer's lungs. Garrison stopped dead in his tracks, his broad shoulders hunched forward. He fought it for a second, his jaw clenched tight, but the pressure was too much. The beta dropped to his knees, his head bowing toward the floor. Jennifer stared in pure shock. Did he just force a grown man to his knees with one word? Maverick walked over to Garrison. He looked down at his second-in-command with cold, ruthless eyes. "She is mine," Maverick said, his voice dropping to a deadly hum. "You will show her the exact same respect you show me. If you ever bare your teeth at her again, I will tear them out of your skull. Do you understand?" Garrison kept his head down. "Yes, Alpha." "Get out," Maverick ordered. Garrison pushed himself off the floor. He did not look at Jennifer. He turned and walked straight out the front door, letting the heavy deadbolt click shut behind him. Maverick turned around to face her. The terrifying anger vanished from his face, replaced by his usual calm mask. "Good morning," Maverick said, taking another sip of his coffee. "Did you sleep well?" Jennifer stared at him. She looked at the door, then back to the giant man standing in her living room. "What are you?" she whispered. Maverick set his mug down on the glass table next to her canvas tote bag. He closed the distance between them, trapping her against the wall. He reached out and tucked a loose strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "I am the man paying your debts," he reminded her. "Now go wash your face. We have a public breakfast date in an hour, and I need you looking like a woman in love." Chapter 5. Jennifer splashed cold water on her face and stared at the bathroom mirror. The reflection staring back looked exhausted. She patted her skin dry with a plush towel and marched out into the hallway, her boots thudding against the hardwood floor. "I just watched a man force another man to his knees with a single word. Act normal, Jenny." She stopped near the kitchen island. A towering cat tree now occupied the corner of the room, complete with sisal rope scratching posts. Flaire crouched on the bottom platform, devouring a bowl of premium salmon pâté. Another ceramic bowl sat beside it, filled to the brim with fresh water. Maverick sat on a leather bar stool, swiping a finger across his phone screen. "I had the lobby concierge fetch supplies. Your roommate demanded breakfast." "Thanks," she muttered. She eyed the spread covering the granite counter. Croissants, scrambled eggs, and sliced fruit rested on porcelain plates. A gleaming metal tray held an assortment of jams and a stick of butter. To purchase a breakfast spread like this at a restaurant would drain her bank account to zero. Her stomach rumbled a violent protest. She reached for a croissant, then extended her other hand to grab the decorative butter knife resting on the tray. A hand clamped around her wrist like a steel vise. Jennifer gasped. The pastry tumbled from her grip. Maverick stood right beside her. He crossed the kitchen before she even registered the shift in the air, his reflexes defying human limits. "Do not touch that," he ordered. His fingers dug into her skin, stopping her hand an inch from the handle. "It's just a knife," she shot back, yanking her arm. "I want butter." Maverick released her. He grabbed a cloth napkin, pinched the blade through the fabric, and lifted the utensil off the tray. He carried it to the trash bin and dropped it inside. "The hotel catering staff made an error," he stated, returning to his stool. That tray and the cutlery are pure silver. Jennifer rubbed her wrist, feeling the phantom heat of his grip. You threw out a silver knife? That's destruction of property. I threw out poison. Maverick extended his left hand. The heavy metal band on his thumb caught the morning light. I wear platinum. Silver burns my skin on contact. It seeps into the blood and poisons the veins. A cut from that blade heals thick and leaves a brutal scar. If a silver bullet hits the heart, it stops beating. She stared at the ring. The puzzle pieces started clicking together in her mind. The strange, suffocating pressure he carried, the talk of territories and lunas, the silver allergy. You're a werewolf, she whispered. The words felt ridiculous on her tongue. She wanted him to laugh and call her crazy. He met her gaze, his expression a wall of calm. Yes, and you signed a contract to be my mate, which means you wear my protection. Don't test the rules of my world. Before Jennifer could form a response, a heavy knock hammered against the front door. Maverick walked to the digital keypad. He punched a sequence of numbers. The heavy deadbolt retracted with a mechanical thud. A man stepped inside. He wore a dark suit and a grim expression. A communication radio clipped to his leather belt buzzed with static. He gave Jennifer a passing glance before snapping his attention to his Alpha. Alpha, the enforcer greeted, bowing his head. I'm sorry to interrupt. Speak, Briggs, Maverick commanded. Border patrols flagged a convoy crossing into the city limits, Briggs reported. The enforcer kept his posture rigid. It's the Northern Pack. Corbin is here. Maverick went dead still. He rubbed the platinum ring with his thumb, his jaw clenching tight. The air in the penthouse grew heavy, pressing down on Jennifer's shoulders. He brought a full security detail, Briggs continued, ignoring the suffocating tension in the room. And he's on the guest list for the charity gala tonight. He knows you're attending. Maverick turned his head, his cold eyes locking onto Jennifer. Get ready. We have a war to win. Jennifer swallowed hard. A war? I signed up for fake smiles and camera flashes. I'm not stepping into a crossfire between a bunch of overgrown wolves. You stepped into the crossfire the moment you spoke my name on television, Maverick replied, his tone leaving zero room for debate. Corbin will try to find a weakness in my armor. Tonight, you are that armor. Do not crack under the pressure. Chapter 6. Jennifer adjusted the collar of her sweeping sapphire blue silk gown. The heavy fabric cascaded down to the floor, hiding her practical shoes. Maverick stood beside her in the back of the armored SUV, wearing a tailored black tuxedo. The vehicle stopped. The doors opened. A wall of noise slammed into them. Photographers lined the red carpet, their cameras a sea of flashing strobes. Fans screamed from behind velvet barricades, desperate for a glimpse of the city elite. Remember the plan, Maverick warned, offering his arm. Smile. Keep the answers vague. Let them believe the romance is real. Jennifer hooked her arm through his. If I trip on this dress, I'm dragging you down with me. I will catch you, he promised, stepping out into the chaos. The flashbulbs blinded her. She blinked away the spots in her vision. Maverick guided her down the carpet. His presence acted like a shield. The reporters pushed forward, eager for a scoop, but they stopped a foot away from the couple. The heavy vibe he carried kept them at bay. Human instincts warned them not to crowd the predator. Jennifer, a reporter shouted, shoving a microphone toward her face. How did you two meet? Was the breakup just a publicity stunt for your blog? Jennifer chewed her bottom lip. She forced a bright, practiced smile. No stunt. We had a disagreement. He was stubborn. I was right. We took some time apart to figure things out. Laughter rippled through the press line. Maverick played along without a single mistake. He leaned down, pressing a kiss to her temple. The touch sent a jolt of static electricity down her spine. She's always right, he told the cameras. I had to grovel to win her back. I'm not letting her go again. The cameras devoured the narrative. They loved the idea of a ruthless billionaire brought to his knees by a sharp-tongued blogger. I am a very good liar, she thought, relaxing her shoulders. They reached the end of the press line and stepped into the grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over round tables covered in white linens. Waiters carried trays of champagne through the crowd of wealthy donors. "You did well," Maverick noted, grabbing 2 flutes of champagne from a passing waiter. He handed one to her. "I write gossip for a living," she replied, taking a sip. "I know exactly what they want to hear." "Enjoy the victory while it lasts." Maverick stared across the ballroom. His jaw tightened. Jennifer followed his gaze. A man stood near the centerpiece ice sculpture. He wore a stark white suit that stood out in the sea of dark tuxedos. His blonde hair slicked back, revealing a sharp, arrogant face. The man locked eyes with Maverick. A cruel smile stretched across his lips. "Is that Corbin?" she asked, her grip tightening on the glass flute. "Yes," Maverick answered. Corbin abandoned his conversation and walked straight toward them. He moved with a lazy, dangerous grace. As he closed the distance, his nostrils flared. He stopped a few feet away, tilting his head as he studied Jennifer. She felt her heart hammer a frantic beat against her ribs. Corbin let out a dark chuckle. "Maverick, you brought a human to a pat gathering. I can sense the terror radiating off her skin from across the room. The mighty alpha of the city must be losing his edge." "She has more fire than your entire bloodline," Maverick countered, shifting his weight. "Fire burns out," Corbin sneered, stepping closer. "She doesn't belong here. Let the adults talk business, little girl." Jennifer felt a surge of defiance. She refused to cower in front of a man wearing a white suit to a charity gala. "The adults are talking," Jennifer shot back, holding her champagne glass steady. "Maybe you should go find the children's table before you interrupt another conversation." Corbin's smile vanished. His eyes flashed with raw, feral anger. Chapter 7. Corbin took a step toward Jennifer. The air in the ballroom snapped tight. A low, vibrating hum resonated in the Northern Alpha's chest. It sounded like an engine revving before a crash. Maverick moved. He stepped in front of Jennifer, cutting off Corbin's path. The midnight blue tuxedo seemed to absorb the light from the chandeliers overhead. "You're crowding my fiancée," Maverick stated. His voice remained smooth, but the alpha command bled into the syllables. The clash between the 2 alphas felt like 2 tectonic plates grinding together. The crystal chandeliers above them rattled. The champagne inside Jennifer's glass trembled, rippling from the sheer force of their unspoken battle. The pressure in the room plummeted. The human guests chatting nearby fell silent. They rubbed their arms, looking around in confusion, feeling the sudden weight pressing down on their lungs. Waiters backed away, retreating to the walls. "Fiancé?" Corbin scoffed, standing his ground. He fought against Maverick's dominance, his own jaw locking tight. "I see no bite mark on her neck. I see no pack claim. She's a prop you bought to appease the elders." "My business with the elders is my own," Maverick countered. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The sheer threat radiating from him forced Corbin to stop moving. "Your business is staying on the north side of the river." "The river is drying up," Corbin challenged. He leaned closer, his eyes darting to Jennifer hiding behind Maverick's broad shoulder. "Your pack looks weak. The board is divided. When the elders finally strip your title, I will take this city, and I will start by sweeping away your little human distraction." Jennifer gripped the stem of her flute. "I am a pawn on a chessboard filled with monsters." Maverick raised his left hand. He adjusted his suit cuff, letting the heavy platinum signet ring catch the light. It was a subtle gesture, a reminder of his rank and his lethal weapon. "Step foot near her again," Maverick warned, his tone dropping to a deadly, gravel-filled hum. "And I don't just take your territory, I end your bloodline. I will burn your compound to the ground and make sure the history books forget your name. Is that clear?" Corbin's chest heaved. He wanted to fight. The wild beast inside him demanded blood. But he was outnumbered in Maverick City, surrounded by enforcers blending into the gala crowd. "Enjoy the party, Maverick," Corbin spat, his voice tight. "The clock is ticking." The Northern Alpha turned on his heel and stalked away, disappearing into the crowd. The heavy pressure in the ballroom lifted. The human guests resumed their chatter, unaware of the invisible war that just ended in front of the ice sculpture. Maverick turned around to face Jennifer. He searched her face, looking for cracks in her composure. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice returning to a normal cadence. "No," she breathed out, setting her untouched champagne on a passing waiter's tray. "But my hands are shaking. That guy looked like he wanted to rip my throat out." "He did," Maverick confirmed. He placed a warm hand against the small of her back, guiding her toward the exit. "We are leaving. The press got their photos. The elders saw us together. Our job here is done." "Are we running away from him?" she asked, stumbling in her heels. "We never run," Maverick corrected, steering her toward the valet stand. "I'm securing my asset. Corbin just declared his intentions. The game rules just changed." Chapter 8. Sunlight flooded the penthouse living room, washing over the thick glass coffee table. Jennifer sat on the white sofa, her legs crossed under her sweatpants. She pulled her canvas tote bag onto her lap and reached inside. Her fingers brushed past the empty pepper spray canister and wrapped around the cold metal of her battered silver laptop. She set the machine on the glass table and hit the power button. The screen remained pitch black. "Come on," she muttered, tapping the keys. Nothing happened. The battery was drained of life. She dug through her tote bag, searching for her charger cord. She pulled out a handful of receipts, a lip balm, and a broken pen, but no power cable. She groaned, letting her head fall back against the sofa cushions. She left the charger plugged into the wall at the coffee shop during the ambush. "I need to post an article," she said to the empty room. "If the blog goes dark, I lose my subscribers. If I lose my subscribers, the ad revenue stops." Maverick walked into the living room. He wore black sweatpants and a plain gray t-shirt, looking far more human than the monster in the tuxedo last night. "Problems?" he asked, walking toward the kitchen. "My laptop is dead and my charger is a casualty of your dramatic entrance yesterday," she complained. "I need to borrow a computer, or a phone, something to update my site." Maverick did not answer. He disappeared down the hallway toward his home gym. Jennifer sighed. She reached over and scratched Flaire behind the ears. The tuxedo cat slept curled up on a plush throw pillow, uncaring about her career crisis. 2 minutes later, Maverick returned. He carried a sleek, black, rectangular box. He walked over to the sofa and dropped the box onto the glass coffee table right next to her dead machine. Jennifer stared at the logo printed on the cardboard. "What is this?" "A replacement," Maverick answered, crossing his arms. She reached out and pulled the lid off the box. Inside sat a top-of-the-line, brand-new laptop. The metal chassis gleamed. It had the highest specifications on the market, meant for professional video editors and hackers, not gossip bloggers. "That machine runs $5,000 retail," Jennifer stated, pulling her hands away like the box was on fire. "I'm not taking this." "Your old one is dead," he pointed out. "Use the new one." "I don't want your handouts," she yelled, standing up. "You cleared my mother's debt, yes, but I earn my own living. I run my own business. I won't be a kept woman who relies on a billionaire to buy her toys." Maverick's jaw tightened. "It's a tool, Jennifer, not a toy. You need to keep up appearances. If your blog fails, people start digging into your life. They will find the cracks in our story." "I'll buy a $20 charger online," she argued, pointing a finger at his chest. "Take the laptop back." "I do not return gifts," Maverick countered. He took a step forward, towering over her. "And I don't take orders in my own territory." "Then throw it in the trash next to the silver butter knife," she challenged, holding her ground. She refused to let him steamroll her independence. "I am playing the role of the fiancée, Maverick, but you don't own me. You can't buy my pride." The air in the room grew heavy. The alpha beast inside him pushed forward, demanding submission. He glared down at her, expecting her to drop her eyes and yield. Jennifer did not blink. She stared right back, her stubborn will fighting against his supernatural command. Maverick stopped at the edge of the hallway. He looked over his shoulder. "Your pride is going to get you killed one day, Jennifer." "At least I'll die independent," she shot back. He let out a low rumble that sounded like a growl. "I will have my security team retrieve your old charger from the coffee shop. It will be here in an hour." He disappeared around the corner. Jennifer sank back onto the white sofa, letting out a breath she did not know she was holding. Flaire opened one eye, let out an annoyed meow at the shouting, and went right back to sleep. Living with a werewolf was going to give her gray hair before she hit 30. Chapter 9. Jennifer shoved her hand into the depths of her canvas tote bag, fishing for the crinkled pile of business receipts. Since her dead silver laptop still sat useless on the glass coffee table beside the untouched replacement, she needed to balance her budget the old-fashioned way. She pulled out a thick, stiff piece of paper from a recent office supply run. The razor-sharp edge caught the tip of her index finger. A sudden sting flared. A thin red line bloomed across her skin, and a single droplet of blood welled to the surface. "Ouch," she muttered, bringing the finger toward her mouth. Across the living room, Maverick stopped mid-stride. The air pressure in the penthouse plummeted. A deep, vibrating rumble echoed from his chest, sounding less like a man and more like a predator tracking wild prey. He snapped his head toward her. His dark eyes tracked the tiny speck of crimson on her skin, dilating until they appeared almost black. "He looks like he wants to rip the room apart to find the threat," Jennifer thought, freezing in place on the white sofa. Maverick crossed the hardwood floor in 2 long strides. He snatched her wrist, pulling her hand away from her mouth. His chest heaved. The inner beast fought for control, demanding he inspect the wound, claim the injury, and hunt whatever caused it. His gaze burned with unmasked, primal possession. "It is just a paper cut," she breathed out, her pulse hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. "I don't need an ambulance." "You are bleeding," he stated. His voice carried a raw, gravel-laced edge that made the fine hairs on the back of her neck stand up. He refused to let go of her wrist. His thumb brushed against her palm, mapping the frantic beat of her heart. On his plush throw pillow, Flaire cracked one eye open. The tuxedo cat let out a short, judgmental meow at the disruption, then tucked his head back under his paws, dismissing the drama. Maverick pulled a sleek smartphone from his sweatpants pocket with his free hand and dialed a single number. "Heiress, penthouse, now." "Maverick, hang up," Jennifer hissed, trying to yank her arm back. It felt like pulling against a steel beam. "You cannot be serious. I need a Band-Aid."
Not a SWAT team.
"You belong to me. Your safety is my responsibility," he countered, pocketing the phone. "The scent of blood alters the pack dynamic. I do not take risks." 10 minutes later, the digital keypad on the front door clicked open. A tall woman with a leather medic bag slung over her shoulder stepped inside. Dr. Eris did not wear a white coat. She wore tactical dark jeans and a fitted gray Henley. She took one look at the towering alpha hovering over the human on the sofa and let out a long, exhausted sigh. "You summoned a healer for a paper cut," Eris said, dropping her heavy bag onto the carpet beside the glass table. "I was setting a broken collarbone downstairs in the training gym, Alpha. The enforcers are running drills." "Fix her," Maverick commanded, ignoring the doctor's irritation. He finally released Jennifer's wrist and paced behind the sofa, rubbing his thumb over his platinum signet ring. He kept himself in motion, burning off the adrenaline spiking in his veins. Eris rolled her eyes and opened her bag. She pulled out a tiny tin of green salve, a cotton swab, and a standard human bandage. She sat on the edge of the coffee table, directly across from Jennifer. "Hold out your hand," the healer instructed. Jennifer offered her finger, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. "I told him it was nothing. I am so sorry to drag you away from a real emergency." "Don't apologize for his instincts," Eris replied. She dabbed the cool ointment onto the cut. The sharp sting vanished into thin air, replaced by a soothing numbness. Werewolf medicine, just a crushed root mix, heals minor tissue damage fast. Eris wrapped the small bandage tight around the finger. She pressed 2 fingers to the inside of Jennifer's wrist, checking her pulse. Steady heartbeat, Eris noted. Then the healer leaned closer, pretending to inspect the adhesive tape. Her voice dropped to a barely audible whisper, meant only for Jennifer's ears. He called me because he doesn't trust his own control right now. Every time you walk into a room, his heart rate spikes. The beast claims you. The line between a fake contract and reality is blurring for him. Be careful, human. Jennifer swallowed a lump of panic, glancing over her shoulder at the pacing giant. The fake engagement felt way too real, and her own heart rate refused to slow down. Chapter 10. The studio lights baked the small television set, radiating a dry, oppressive heat. Jennifer shifted in her velvet armchair, tugging at the hem of the tailored rust-red blazer the stylist provided yesterday. She sat inches away from Maverick, who looked way too comfortable in an onyx black suit. The host, a woman with sharp features and a predatory smile, adjusted her earpiece. "We are live in 5, 4, the floor manager signaled. Jennifer chewed her bottom lip. I can lie to a coffee shop. Can I lie to 1,000,000 viewers? Welcome back to Cityscope, the host announced, turning to the main camera. Today we have an exclusive, the corporate world's most elusive bachelor, Maverick, and his new fiancée, Jennifer. The internet exploded with your red carpet debut. Everyone wants to know the details. The host leaned forward, locking her gaze on Jennifer. Let's start at the beginning. 2 people from different worlds. How did a powerful CEO and a fierce gossip blogger cross paths? Panic clawed at Jennifer's throat. They never rehearsed this part. The contract outlined public appearances, not creative writing. We met at a coffee shop, Jennifer blurted out. Maverick shifted in his seat, his knee brushing against hers. The brief contact sent a jolt of heat straight to her core. A coffee shop, the host repeated, her eyebrows rising. A billionaire waiting in line for an espresso? He spilled it on me, Jennifer lied, finding her rhythm. She waved a hand in the air. I was typing up an article. He was distracted by his phone. He walked right into my table, knocked my drink over, and ruined my favorite thrifted sweater. Maverick let out a low, smooth chuckle. He reached over and laced his fingers through hers, resting their joined hands on his thigh. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. She demanded I pay the dry cleaning bill, Maverick added, picking up the thread without missing a beat. His alpha confidence masked the fabrication. I told her I would buy her a new sweater if she agreed to have dinner with me. She turned me down. The host smiled, eating up the banter. You rejected him? He was arrogant, Jennifer retorted, squeezing his hand, and he refused to apologize without an argument. I made him work for that first date. She kept me waiting for 3 weeks, Maverick said, turning his head to look directly at her. His dark eyes softened, dropping the cold corporate mask. The intensity of his stare pinned her to the velvet chair. But the chase was worth the reward. She is the only woman who ever challenged me. I knew the moment she yelled at me over spilled coffee that she was my future. Jennifer felt her breath hitch. He delivered the lie with such raw conviction she almost believed it herself. He deserves an acting award for this performance, she thought, her pulse picking up speed. That is quite the romantic origin story, the host purred. But the public is skeptical. Some internet forums claim this is a sudden business arrangement, a stunt to improve your corporate image. The studio grew silent. The trap snapped shut. Maverick did not flinch. He did not pull away. Instead, he reached his free hand up and cupped the side of Jennifer's face. His long fingers traced her jawline, sending a shiver down her spine. The public can think whatever they want, Maverick said, his voice dropping an octave. I don't need to prove my devotion to a camera lens. I only need to prove it to her. He leaned in. Jennifer froze, her mind short-circuited. Before she could pull away or formulate a witty comeback, his lips brushed against hers. It started as a staged press. a performance for the cameras. But the second their mouths met, the atmosphere shifted. The staged kiss ignited a sudden, fierce spark. Maverick's grip tightened on her jaw. He deepened the kiss, a low, possessive hum vibrating in his chest. Heat flushed through Jennifer's veins. She forgot about the host. She forgot about the blinding studio lights and the million viewers watching at home. For 3 breathless seconds, the fake engagement melted away, leaving only the terrifying magnetic pull between them. Maverick pulled back a single inch. He kept his face near hers, his chest rising and falling. His dark eyes burned with an emotion that looked dangerously genuine. The host cleared her throat, a genuine look of surprise breaking through her professional mask. "Well, I think that answers the skeptics." Jennifer gripped the armrests of her chair, desperate to anchor herself. The lie just crossed a line into dangerous territory, and she had no idea how to navigate the fallout. Chapter 11. The armored SUV parked against the curb of Jennifer's old neighborhood. The street looked rough, lined with crumbling brick buildings and overflowing trash cans. "Stay close to me," Maverick ordered, stepping out of the vehicle. He wore his usual dark jeans and a fitted black t-shirt, blending into the shadows of the afternoon. Briggs, the grim enforcer from the penthouse, trailed behind them, his eyes scanning the rooftops. "It is broad daylight. I just need to pack my winter coats and grab my backup hard drive," Jennifer said, marching up the concrete steps to her apartment building. "Your security team brought back my laptop charger from the coffee shop yesterday. This is just an errand." She pushed through the main lobby doors and headed for the stairwell. Maverick stayed a half step behind her, his large frame blocking the narrow hallway. They reached the 3rd floor. Jennifer pulled her keys from her pocket and walked down the dim corridor toward apartment 3B. She stopped. The metal key slipped from her fingers, clattering against the linoleum floor. Her front door hung open, the wooden frames splintered around the deadbolt. The lock mechanism was destroyed, twisted metal jutting out like broken teeth. Maverick moved in a blur. He shoved her behind his back, shielding her body with his own. He raised a hand, signaling Briggs to halt. "Stay out here," Maverick commanded, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. He stepped through the ruined doorway, his muscles coiled tight. Jennifer ignored the order. She peeked around the broken doorframe, her stomach twisting into a tight knot. Her small apartment was unrecognizable. The cushions on her thrifted sofa were ripped apart, spilling yellow foam across the rug. The small television screen lay shattered on the floorboards. Her bookshelves were tipped over, dumping hundreds of paperback novels into a messy pile. The kitchen cabinets swung open, their contents smashed against the cheap linoleum tiles. Someone destroyed her home. "My hard drive," Jennifer gasped, rushing past Maverick toward her tiny bedroom. "Jennifer, stop!" Maverick barked, grabbing her arm before she could cross the living room. "The intruder could still be close. Do not compromise the perimeter." He dragged her back toward the hallway, his eyes scanning the destruction. He took a deep breath through his nose. The Alpha searched for a scent trail, cataloging the subtle smells hanging in the stagnant air. His jaw clenched tight. "They are gone," Maverick confirmed, releasing her arm. "The trail is stale. They left hours ago." Briggs stepped into the apartment, his boots crunching over broken glass. "A message, Alpha, or a search party?" "Both," Maverick replied, kicking a piece of sofa foam out of his path. Jennifer walked into the small kitchen, stepping over broken plates and spilled cereal. Her hands shook. She lost her mother's debt, but now she lost her safe haven. The broken door hung off its hinges, a permanent reminder of her vulnerability. She walked toward the bedroom doorway. Her small dresser rested on its side. A framed photograph of her late mother lay face down, the protective glass cracked into a spiderweb pattern. She picked it up, brushing away a shard of glass, and clutched the frame to her chest. She looked at the small Formica counter. A single piece of pristine white paper sat amidst the wreckage, pinned to the surface by a heavy kitchen knife plunged straight through the wood. Jennifer reached out and pulled the paper free. Her blood ran cold. "Maverick!" she called out, her voice trembling. The giant werewolf crossed the room, standing over her shoulder. He looked down at the note in her hands. Scrawled in thick black ink were 4 words. "We know she's human." Maverick let out a feral growl. The sound vibrated against the kitchen walls, shaking the hanging cabinet doors. Corbin's pack found her apartment. The Northern Alpha discovered her weakness and dismantled her home just to prove he could reach her. "Briggs," Maverick snapped, turning away from the counter. "Call the cleanup crew. Pack whatever is left of her clothes. We are leaving." "Where are we going?" Jennifer asked, clutching the note. "To ground," Maverick answered, his eyes burning with a promise of violence. Corbin just crossed the borderline. Chapter 12. Briggs spoke in clipped words into his encrypted radio, pacing the shattered remains of the living room. 2 more enforcers arrived within minutes, their heavy boots thudding against the stairs. They spread out, checking the bedroom and the fire escape window for any lingering threats. Jennifer stood in the kitchen, still clutching her mother's cracked photograph. She watched Maverick. The Alpha stood near the broken front door, his broad shoulders tense. He watched the hallway, acting as a physical shield between her and the outside world. "Clear the bedroom," Briggs ordered the new arrivals. He walked toward the kitchen, his eyes scanning the floorboards. "Alpha, they tossed the closet, but there is a residue near the windowsill. It looks like they tracked something inside." Maverick turned away from the door. He stalked past the ruined sofa and approached the bedroom threshold. "Stay back," Maverick warned Jennifer, holding up a hand. Jennifer leaned against the counter, watching him crouch near the baseboards. A fine dusting of deep purple powder coated the edge of the carpet and the window frame. Maverick leaned in closer to inspect the substance. He took a shallow breath to catch the trace element. It was a fatal mistake. The second the dust entered his lungs, Maverick flinched. He coughed, a harsh, ragged sound that echoed through the apartment. He stumbled backward, his heavy boots slipping on the debris. He caught himself against the doorframe, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the wood. "Alpha!" Briggs shouted, dropping his radio. "Don't touch it!" Maverick roared, squeezing his eyes shut. A bead of sweat broke out across his forehead. His skin lost its color, turning a sickly pale shade. Jennifer dropped the photograph on the counter and ran forward. "What is it? What is wrong with him?" "Wolfsbane," Briggs cursed, backing away from the purple dust. "It is pure poison. Corbin's scouts lined the window with crushed petals. It is a booby trap." Maverick let out another terrible, wet cough. His knees buckled. The towering, invincible Alpha hit the floor hard, taking a broken piece of the drywall down with him. His breathing turned shallow and rapid. The poison attacked his nervous system, stripping away his supernatural strength in seconds. "Get him out of the room!" an enforcer yelled, but none of the wolves moved forward. The wolfsbane dust hung in the air, a lethal barrier for any lycanthrope. If they inhaled it, they would fall right next to him. "He needs fresh air!" Briggs yelled, covering his mouth and nose with his jacket sleeve. "The toxin is spreading through the vents!" Jennifer did not hesitate. The purple powder meant nothing to a human. She sprinted past the hesitating enforcers and dropped to her knees beside Maverick. Up close, he looked terrible. His dark eyes rolled back, fighting a losing battle against unconsciousness. "Maverick, look at me!" Jennifer demanded. She grabbed his broad shoulders, pulling him forward. He was dead weight. Moving him felt like trying to drag a boulder across a beach. "Help me!" she screamed at the enforcers standing in the living room. "We cannot cross the dust line without hazmat gear, or we go down too!" Briggs shouted back, helpless. "You have to drag him out, Jennifer!" "I am 90 pounds soaking wet," she thought in pure panic. She looped her arms under Maverick's armpits, interlocking her fingers across his broad chest. She planted her combat boots against the floorboards and pulled with every ounce of strength she possessed. Her muscles screamed in protest. Her boots slid against the linoleum. But inch by inch, she dragged the dead weight backward. Maverick's head lolled against her shoulder. His high body heat radiated against her cheek, burning like a furnace as his fast healing system tried to fight off the poison. "Come on, you stubborn giant," she grunted, pulling him out of the bedroom and into the living room. She did not stop. She dragged him past the broken sofa, stepping backward through the ruined front door and out into the hallway. The moment they crossed the threshold, Briggs and the other enforcers rushed forward. They took Maverick's weight, lifting the unconscious alpha off the floor. Jennifer collapsed against the hallway wall, gasping for breath. Her arms shook from the exertion. "We need to get him to Dr. Eris right now," Briggs ordered, throwing Maverick's arm over his shoulder. "If the poison hits his heart, the alpha dies tonight." Chapter 13. Briggs kicked the penthouse door shut, the digital deadbolt engaging with a loud click. He hauled Maverick down the hallway, groaning under the sheer dead weight of the unconscious alpha. Jennifer followed right behind them, clutching her mother's cracked photograph and the stalker's note against the chest of her faded mustard-yellow hoodie. "Put him on the bed," Dr. Eris commanded, pointing toward the king-sized mattress in the center of the only bedroom. The healer already had her leather medic bag open, scattering glass vials and plastic tubing across the nightstand. Briggs dumped Maverick onto the mattress. The alpha's head rolled to the side. His skin burned with a terrifying heat, radiating a fever that turned the air in the room thick and stifling. "Wolfsbane powder inhaled directly into the lungs," Briggs reported, stepping back to give the healer room. "His heart rate is dropping fast." "I need cold water, ice, and towels," Eris ordered, snapping a pair of latex gloves over her hands. "Jennifer, go." Jennifer dropped her photo and the threatening note onto the thick glass coffee table in the living room and sprinted for the kitchen. She bypassed the towering cat tree where Flaire sat grooming his tuxedo fur. She ripped the freezer open, grabbed a metal bowl, and dumped the ice bin into it. She filled the rest with cold tap water, snatched 3 towels from the bathroom cabinet, and ran back into the bedroom. Eris already had a thick needle pushed into a vein on Maverick's arm. Clear liquid dripped from an IV bag she hooked onto the bedpost. "The antidote pushes the toxin out of his blood," Eris explained, her hands moving in a blur. "But his internal temperature is skyrocketing. His wolf half is fighting the poison, burning energy to keep his organs from shutting down. We have to cool him off, or the fever fries his brain." Jennifer dropped the metal bowl onto the floor. She soaked a towel in the ice water, wrung it out, and pressed the freezing cloth against Maverick's forehead. The water hissed against his skin, turning warm in seconds. "Keep changing the towels," Eris instructed, checking the IV line. "Briggs, go secure the perimeter. I need to mix another dose." The enforcer and the healer stepped out of the room, leaving Jennifer alone with the burning alpha. "I am not cut out for a turf war," she thought, her hands shaking as she dunked the second towel into the icy water. She pressed the fresh cloth against his neck. Maverick flinched. A raw, guttural groan ripped from his throat. His muscles coiled tight under his black t-shirt, fighting unseen phantoms in the dark. Jennifer leaned over him, holding the cold compress in place. Up close, the terrifying predator looked human. The cold corporate mask vanished, replaced by lines of pain and exhaustion. She swapped the towels again, ignoring the ache in her arms from dragging him out of her ruined apartment. "Maverick," she whispered, brushing a damp strand of hair off his temple. "You need to pull through this. You promised to clear my debts, remember? You don't get to quit on me." His chest hitched. The fever broke his defenses, dragging his subconscious to the surface. His dark eyes cracked open, unfocused and glazed over with a glassy haze. He reached up, his large hand wrapping around her wrist. His grip lacked its usual bone-crushing strength, but it still held her locked in place. "Mine," he rasped, his voice a broken rumble. "It's just the fever talking," she hushed him, trying to pull her hand away. Maverick refused to let go. He pulled her wrist down, pressing her palm flat against the center of his chest. Beneath his t-shirt, his heart thundered a frantic, erratic beat against her skin. "My true mate," he breathed out, the words carrying a raw, desperate possession. His eyes slid shut again, the fever dragging him back under. Jennifer froze, her breath catching in her throat. The fake contract stated she was a prop, a temporary shield to keep his corporate board happy. But the beast inside him did not know how to read legal documents. The beast claimed her. Chapter 14. Sunlight pierced the bedroom curtains, hitting Jennifer right in the eyes. She woke with a start, her cheek pressed against the mattress. She spent the entire night sitting on the floor beside the bed, swapping cold towels until the ice melted into lukewarm water. She lifted her head. The king-sized bed was empty. Panic spiked in her chest. She scrambled to her feet, her combat boots finding traction on the floorboards. She rushed down the hallway and stopped at the edge of the living room. Maverick stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the city skyline. He wore clean dark jeans and a fresh gray t-shirt. He looked pale, the edges of his jaw tight with lingering fatigue, but the terrifying fever was gone. His fast healing system won the war against the poison. "You should be in bed," Jennifer scolded, crossing her arms over her mustard-yellow hoodie. Maverick turned his head. "I heal fast. The toxin is out of my system." Before she could argue, the digital keypad on the front door chimed. The deadbolt slid back with a loud clack. Maverick's posture turned rigid. He stepped away from the window, placing himself between Jennifer and the entryway. The door swung open. An older woman stepped into the penthouse. She wore a tailored, charcoal gray suit, leaning her weight on a platinum-capped walking cane. Her silver hair sat pinned in a flawless, tight twist. She commanded the room the second her shoes hit the hardwood floor, radiating an authority that rivaled Maverick's heavy vibe. Behind her stood Briggs, looking deeply uncomfortable. "Grandmother," Maverick greeted, his voice tight. Elder Coraline ignored her grandson. Her sharp, calculating eyes locked onto Jennifer. She tapped her cane against the floor, walking straight past the thick glass coffee table where the unaccepted $5,000 laptop and the stalker's note sat side by side. "So," Coraline began, her voice crisp and sharp as shattered glass, "this is the human causing a turf war in my city." Jennifer stood her ground, refusing to shrink under the harsh stare. "My name is Jennifer." "I know who you are," Coraline dismissed, stopping a few feet away. She eyed Jennifer's thrifted clothes, taking in the scuffed boots and the exhausted bags under her eyes. "You run a failing gossip website. You have zero combat training, no pack lineage, and you bring nothing to this family's legacy. Corbin destroyed your home yesterday, and my grandson nearly died trying to pull you out of the wreckage." "That was an ambush," Maverick cut in, his tone dropping into a dangerous warning. "Corbin crossed a line. I will handle him." "You will handle nothing while you look like a walking corpse," Coraline snapped, slamming her cane against the rug. She turned back to Jennifer. "Werewolf politics run on strength. You project weakness. The board of directors is panicking. The northern pack smells blood in the water." "I did not ask for Corbin to trash my apartment," Jennifer shot back, her temper flaring. She pointed a finger at Maverick. "He pulled me into this mess to save his own empire from you." Coraline raised an eyebrow. The corners of her mouth twitched. "A sharp tongue, but words do not win wars. If you claim to be his Luna, his future mate, you must prove you can hold the weight of the pack." "Prove it how?" Jennifer challenged. Coraline smiled, a cold, predatory expression. "Tonight, you will host the inner circle, a formal dinner right here at the penthouse. The Beta, the Gamma, and the Enforcer captains will sit at your table. If you flinch, if you show them an ounce of fear, I will rip up this engagement and strip Maverick of his alpha title by morning." The elder turned on her heel and marched toward the door. "Dinner is at 8. Do try to find something better to wear than a thrift store hoodie." The deadbolt clicked shut behind her. Jennifer stared at the door, her stomach tying into a painful knot. Chapter 15. A frantic knock echoed through the penthouse at 3 in the afternoon. Briggs opened the door, escorting a frantic stylist carrying 3 heavy garment bags into the living room. Since rule number 1 stated Jennifer could not leave the penthouse without a security detail, the high society wardrobe came to her. "I need a miracle," Jennifer muttered, staring at the garments hanging from a temporary rack near the glass table. "We do not need a miracle, we need silk," the stylist replied, unzipping the final bag. Jennifer spent the next hour trapped in a whirlwind of fabrics, hairpins, and gold jewelry. The stylist explicitly avoided anything resembling silver, adhering to the strict pack laws. Flaire watched the entire ordeal from his cat tree, letting out an occasional meow whenever a discarded dress hit the floor. "This is the one," the stylist declared, stepping back. Jennifer turned toward the floor-length mirror leaning against the hallway wall. She stopped breathing. The dress was a deep, rich plum color, made of heavy velvet that pooled around her feet. The neckline plunged just enough to be daring, while long sleeves gave it a regal, armored look. A thick gold chain rested around her neck, settling against her collarbone. Her auburn hair, usually thrown into a messy bun, now fell in soft, sculpted waves down her back. She did not look like a broke blogger staring down eviction. She looked like a woman who owned the city. "The pack expects a Luna to command attention," the stylist noted, packing up her supplies. "You command the room, sweetheart." Once the stylist left, the penthouse fell quiet. Caterers arrived through the service elevator, moving like ghosts as they transformed the dining area into a formal banquet setup. Jennifer stood by the mirror, adjusting the gold chain. Her nerves hummed a frantic rhythm. Hosting corporate billionaires was one thing. Hosting a pack of lethal predators who wanted to test her survival instincts was a different game altogether. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Maverick walked out of the bedroom. He traded his casual clothes for an ink-black tailored suit. He looked rested, his fast-healing metabolism erasing the pale, sickly look from the morning. The jagged scar on his face gave him that ruthless, unapproachable edge. He stopped a few feet away, his dark eyes locking onto her reflection in the mirror. The air in the room thickened. The heavy vibe he carried shifted, turning into something raw and magnetic. He did not say a word. He just stared, his gaze tracking the line of the gold necklace down to the velvet fabric wrapping around her waist. "He looks like he wants to tear the dress right off me," Jennifer thought, her pulse hammering a sudden, wild beat against her ribs. "You look ready for war," Maverick finally said, his voice a low, gravel-laced hum. Jennifer turned around to face him. "Your grandmother told me to prove I can hold the weight of the pack. I figured I should dress the part." Maverick closed the distance between them. He reached out, his long fingers brushing against the heavy velvet sleeve on her arm. The touch sent a jolt of heat racing straight to her core. "They will try to break you tonight," he warned, his eyes searching hers. "They will push your limits to see if you crack. If the pressure gets too high, look at me. I will shut it down." "If you fight my battles, they will see me as a liability," she countered, lifting her chin. "I am not a prop tonight, Maverick. I am your partner. Let them test me." A dark, genuine smile pulled at the corner of his mouth. The fake engagement contract sat hidden in a drawer, but the dynamic between them just tilted. "Then show them why I chose you," Maverick murmured, offering his arm. "My queen." Chapter 16. The dining table gleamed under the crystal chandelier, set with porcelain plates and gold cutlery. Jennifer sat at the head of the table, directly across from Maverick. 4 other wolves occupied the chairs between them. Garrison, the beta she met on her first morning, sat on the left, glaring at his plate. Briggs and another enforcer captain sat near Maverick, but the real threat sat directly to Jennifer's right. Ryland, the pack gamma. He served as the war leader. He wore a dark leather jacket over a crisp, button-down shirt. His eyes mirrored the cold, calculating stare of a sniper waiting for a target to step into the crosshairs. 3 Omegas moved silently around the table, serving cuts of rare steak and pouring dark red wine. They kept their heads bowed, radiating a calming energy that barely made a dent in the suffocating tension filling the room. "So, Jennifer," Ryland began, picking up his wine glass. He did not bother with pleasantries. "The Northern Alpha destroyed your home. Our Alpha nearly died trying to protect you. Most humans would take the buyout money and run to another state. Why are you still here?" Jennifer cut a piece of her steak, keeping her hands steady. She felt Maverick watching her from the opposite end of the table. He stayed silent, honoring their agreement to let her fight her own battle. "I don't run," Jennifer answered, meeting Ryland's cold stare. "Corbin broke my front door. He did not break my spine. If I run, I prove him right." Garrison let out a short, mocking laugh. "Bravery is easy when you sit behind a keyboard, human. A real pack war involves teeth and claws. When Corbin brings his enforcers across the river, your sharp words won't stop them from tearing this penthouse apart." "If Corbin crosses the river, he deals with Maverick," she shot back, taking a sip of wine. "My job is not to fight your border skirmishes. My job is to stand beside your alpha and make sure the corporate world does not fund your enemies. I secure the boardroom. You secure the streets." Ryland set his glass down. He leaned toward her, invading her space. The war leader pushed a fraction of his dominance outward, testing her nerve. "You think a velvet dress makes you a Luna?" Ryland challenged, his voice dropping into a dangerous growl. "You don't understand our world. You don't have the blood. The second the violence starts, you will panic, and Maverick will die trying to keep you breathing." The pressure in the room spiked. The Omegas froze against the walls. Garrison smirked, waiting for her to break. Jennifer's heart hammered a frantic rhythm. Her instincts screamed at her to look away from the predator. Instead, she set her fork down with a sharp clink against the porcelain plate. "I dragged a 200-pound unconscious alpha out of a room filled with lethal poison while his own enforcers stood in the hallway and watched," Jennifer stated, her voice ringing loud and clear in the silent room. She locked eyes with Ryland, refusing to back down. "Tell me again how I am the liability." Ryland blinked, caught completely off guard by the raw truth of her statement. He glanced at Briggs, who gave a slow, confirming nod. Maverick leaned back in his chair, a dark look of pride flashing across his face. Before Ryland could form a comeback, a black and white blur launched from the living room floor. Flaire landed square in the center of the dining table. The tuxedo cat marched straight past Ryland's plate, his tail held high in the air. He stepped onto the rim of Garrison's crystal water glass, tilting it over. Splash! Ice water soaked the beta's lap. Garrison jumped up from his chair, cursing loudly as he brushed the cold liquid off his dark trousers. Flaire sat down on the table, adjusting his red velvet bow tie, and let out a smug meow. The heavy, suffocating tension shattered in an instant. Jennifer clamped a hand over her mouth, fighting back a laugh. Even Ryland let out a quiet snort of amusement, watching the beta struggle with a wet napkin. Maverick signaled the Omegas, who rushed forward to clean the mess, resetting the dynamic of the room. The human passed the test, and the cat claimed the victory. Chapter 17. Morning light cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the penthouse living room. Jennifer sat on the edge of the pristine white sofa. She pulled the zipper of her mustard-yellow hoodie up to her chin, fighting a chill that had nothing to do with the room temperature. She stared at the thick glass coffee table in front of her. The surface held a grim display. Her mother's cracked photograph, the stalker's threatening note, and the expensive, untouched replacement laptop Maverick tried to gift her sat in a neat row. Flaire prowled across the rug. The tuxedo cat jumped onto the glass table, sniffing the edges of the unaccepted computer. "Leave it alone, buddy," Jennifer warned, nudging the cat away. She pulled her canvas tote bag onto her lap. She dug past her empty pepper spray canister and pulled out her cracked smartphone. She held the power button down. The screen flickered to life, showing a meager 10% battery charge. She connected to the penthouse Wi-Fi network. A flurry of notifications bombarded the screen, making the cheap device freeze for a few seconds. Her own gossip blog sat silent, but the rival media sites were on fire. She tapped the top trending link. Her stomach dropped into her shoes. The bold headline screamed, "City Alpha rents a bride." Well, it was a nice run, she thought, her pulse hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She scrolled through the text. The blind item tore their story to shreds. The anonymous author claimed the engagement was a desperate business deal to appease the board of directors. The article outlined the exact terms: a 3-month contract in exchange for paying off a deceased mother's debt. It branded her a paid actress and called Maverick a fraud, losing his grip on the city. Someone knew everything. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Maverick strode into the living room. He held his encrypted smartphone in a tight grip. The plastic casing groaned under the pressure of his fingers. He wore a simple black t-shirt and dark jeans, but the dangerous predator radiated from every inch of his frame. He stopped near the sofa and locked eyes with her. "You saw the leak," Maverick stated. It was not a question. Jennifer held up her phone. "It has 10,000 shares in the last hour. The entire city knows I am a fake. They know about my mother's debt. Who told them? Did Corbin figure it out?" "Corbin does not have access to my private accounts," Maverick replied, his voice dropping to a lethal, gravel-laced hum. "Someone in my inner circle sold us out." "Ryland?" she guessed. "He made it clear he hated me at dinner last night." "Ryland is a soldier. He hates human politics, but he does not betray the pack to the media," Maverick countered. He paced across the living room, a coiled spring ready to snap. "This is a calculated hit. It is designed to strip my corporate backing and force the elders to act." "What about Garrison?" she pushed, remembering the beta's sneer on her first morning in the cage. "He called me a liability. He wanted you to pick a real Luna." "Garrison respects the chain of command," Maverick dismissed, though his jaw tightened. His phone buzzed. Maverick lifted the device to his ear. He listened for 3 seconds. He ended the call without saying a single word. He slid the phone back into his pocket and turned to face her. "Get your boots on," Maverick ordered. Jennifer dropped her phone back into her tote bag. "Where are we going?" "The Elder Council," he answered. "They read the article. They are demanding an emergency tribunal. If we don't show up, they hand my territory to the Northern Pack by noon." "We can deny it," she argued, standing up. "We go on television again. We tell them it is a smear campaign." "A television interview won't save us this time," Maverick said, walking toward the front door. "The elders don't care about human media. They care about pack law, and pack law demands proof." Jennifer swallowed hard. The fake engagement just hit a brick wall. She slung her tote bag over her shoulder, leaving the cracked photo and the stalker note on the glass table. Flaire watched them leave, letting out a sharp meow as the digital deadbolt clicked shut, sealing the penthouse behind them. Chapter 18. The armored SUV cut through the morning traffic, carrying them away from the towering glass skyscrapers and into the older, historic district of the city. Jennifer sat in the back seat, her hands gripping the straps of her canvas tote bag. Maverick sat beside her, silent and tense. He stared out the tinted window, watching the city streets blur past. He rubbed the heavy platinum signet ring on his thumb, a rare tell that the Alpha felt the pressure closing in. The vehicle pulled up to a massive stone building. It looked like an old cathedral, complete with iron gates and gargoyles perched on the roof. Briggs killed the engine. "Stay behind me," Maverick instructed, opening the heavy car door. They walked up the stone steps. 2 enforcers stood guard at the entrance. They bowed their heads as Maverick passed, but their eyes lingered on Jennifer, full of doubt and suspicion. The leak had already poisoned the ranks. Maverick pushed the heavy oak doors open. They stepped into a grand, circular room. The air inside felt cold and stale, smelling of old paper and burning wax. 4 older wolves sat at a round table in the center of the room. The Elder Council. Elder Coraline sat at the head of the table. Her hands rested on the polished ivory handle of her walking cane. She did not bother hiding the triumphant smirk on her face. "You arrived fast," Coraline noted, her voice echoing off the stone walls. "I assume you read the morning news." Maverick walked forward, stopping a few feet from the table. He kept Jennifer tucked close to his side. "I do not answer to gossip bloggers. I answer to this council." A man with a thick gray beard leaned forward. Elder Harrison scowled, tossing a printed stack of papers onto the center of the table. "You answer to the pack, Maverick. The human media claims you bought a mate to secure your corporate seats. They claim you signed a contract to pay off her debts." "An anonymous rumor," Maverick dismissed, holding his ground, "planted by Corbin to destabilize the city before he makes a move on our borders." "Rumors breed panic," Coraline countered, tapping her cane against the floor. "The board of directors called me an hour ago. They are freezing your assets. The Northern Pack is gathering on the edge of the river. We look weak, Maverick. We look like a pack run by a fraud." Jennifer felt her chest tighten. "I am going to pass out right here on this expensive rug," she panicked. "I won the turf war yesterday," Maverick reminded them, his voice vibrating with the alpha command. The sheer weight of his presence pressed into the room, rattling the wooden chairs. "I chased Corbin out of the gala. My enforcers hold the line." "Your enforcers are questioning your leadership," Harrison shouted back, fighting the dominance push. "You brought a human into our world. You claim she is your future, but we see no proof." Coraline stood up. She leaned on her ivory cane, her sharp eyes locking onto Maverick. "We are ending this game today," the grandmother declared. "We will not let the city fall to the Northern Pack because you refuse to take a true Luna. You want to keep the territory? You want to keep your title? Prove the bloggers wrong." "How?" Maverick demanded. Coraline pointed a single bony finger at Jennifer. "Claim her," Coraline ordered. "Right here, right now. Bite her neck and mark her with the pack scent. Show us she is your true mate, or step down and hand the ring over to someone who can lead." Silence slammed into the room. Jennifer stopped breathing. She stared at the elders, the words ringing in her ears. A bite, a permanent physical mark from a werewolf. The fake contract did not cover this. Maverick went dead still. He did not look at Jennifer. He stared at his grandmother, his dark eyes burning with pure, feral rage. The trap was set, and the jaws just snapped shut. Chapter 19. No. The single word ripped from Maverick's throat. It hit the stone room like a physical blow. The alpha command laced the syllable, forcing Elder Harrison to drop his gaze to the table. Jennifer's heart hammered a frantic beat against her ribs. She gripped her tote bag, her knuckles turning white. Coraline did not flinch. The older werewolf stood her ground, leaning heavily on her ivory-handled cane. "You refuse to claim your Luna? You stand before the council and deny the bond?" "I refuse to let you dictate my choices," Maverick fired back, his voice dropping to a deadly hum. "I will not put my teeth into her." "Because she is a fake," Harrison sneered, recovering his nerve. "The blog was right. You rented a human to fool us." "Because a bite kills a human," Maverick roared, his composure finally shattering. The raw volume shook the room. The beast inside him clawed at the surface, furious and cornered. Jennifer took a step back, her boots scraping against the stone floor. She remembered the rules of the lore. Bitten wolves rarely survived. The venom burned through human veins, forcing the body to break and snap into new shapes. It required a warrior's constitution to survive the first shift. A 90-pound gossip blogger would die in agony before the moon even rose. "She is fragile," Maverick continued, his chest heaving. He threw an arm out, pointing at Jennifer without looking at her. "Her body cannot handle the venom. It will stop her heart. I will not murder her to satisfy your political theater." "A true mate survives the bite," Coraline stated, devoid of all empathy. "The bond protects them. If you believe she is yours, the venom will not kill her. If you refuse, it means you know she is just a pawn." "I will not risk her life," Maverick growled, stepping closer to the table. "I will fight Corbin myself. I will tear his throat out on the city border, but I will not bite her." Coraline let out a long, cold sigh. She sat back down in her chair. "Then you are unfit to lead," the grandmother declared. "You place a fragile human above the survival of the pack. You let rumors rot our foundation. The council strips your title, Maverick. You are no longer the alpha of this city." Jennifer gasped. "He is throwing away his entire empire for me." "Take off the ring," Harrison demanded, holding out a hand. Maverick did not argue. He did not plead. His face turned to a mask of cold, unforgiving stone. He reached over with his right hand and gripped the heavy platinum signet ring resting on his left thumb. He pulled it free. He tossed the metal band onto the oak table. It clattered against the wood, a harsh, final sound. "The Northern Pack will slaughter you without me," Maverick promised, his voice devoid of all emotion. "When Corbin breaks your gates, do not call for my help." He turned on his heel. He grabbed Jennifer's arm, his grip firm but careful, and dragged her toward the heavy oak doors. "You are a lone wolf now," Coraline called out as they reached the exit. "You have no enforcers, no protection. Corbin will hunt you down before the sun sets." Maverick pushed the doors open, ignoring the threat. They stepped out into the morning air. The two enforcers guarding the steps took one look at Maverick's bare left hand. They stepped back, lowering their heads, refusing to look him in the eye. They belonged to the council now. "Get in the car," Maverick ordered Jennifer, pointing to the armored SUV. Briggs stood by the driver's side door. The enforcer looked at the bare thumb, his jaw clenching tight. Briggs did not step away. He opened the back door for them, choosing loyalty over the council. Maverick shoved Jennifer inside and climbed in after her. "Drive, now!" Chapter 20. The armored SUV tore away from the curb, its heavy tires screeching against the asphalt. Inside the cabin, the silence was deafening. Jennifer clutched her tote bag to her chest, her mind spinning. The fake engagement was over. The contract meant nothing. Maverick just threw away his wealth, his pack, and his title to keep her breathing. "You gave up the ring," she whispered, staring at his bare hand. Maverick stared out the windshield, his jaw locked. "I keep my assets alive. A dead human serves no purpose." "Don't lie to me," she snapped, finding her voice. "You let them strip your empire. You told the host on live television that you would prove your devotion. I didn't think you meant you would fall on a sword for me." Before Maverick could answer, Briggs shouted a warning from the front seat. "Incoming!" A black pickup truck blew through a red light at the intersection ahead. It slammed into the passenger side of their SUV. The impact sounded like a bomb detonating. Metal shrieked. Glass shattered, raining down across the leather seats. The heavy armor plating absorbed the worst of the blow, but the sheer force threw Jennifer across the back seat. Maverick caught her. He wrapped his arms around her, crushing her face against his chest to shield her from the flying debris. "Corbin's men," Maverick growled over the noise. "They were waiting for the council to drop my protection." Briggs fought the steering wheel, fighting to keep the heavy vehicle on the road. The SUV swerved, taking out a street lamp before correcting its path. The engine roared as the enforcer slammed his foot on the gas pedal. "We have 2 more tails!" Briggs yelled, checking the rearview mirror. Jennifer peeked over Maverick's arm. 2 more dark trucks rode their bumper, swerving through the morning traffic. The Northern Pack did not waste a single second. With Maverick stripped of his title, he was a rogue wolf in their eyes, an easy target. "We are going to die in a car crash," she panicked, her hands shaking. The truck behind them accelerated, ramming the back bumper. The SUV lurched forward. Jennifer bit her tongue, tasting a sharp copper tang in her mouth. "Take the alley," Maverick ordered. Briggs yanked the wheel hard to the right. The SUV careened into a narrow, brick-lined alleyway. Trash cans exploded as the heavy bumper plowed through them. The pursuers followed right behind, their engines echoing off the tight walls. They are trying to pit us, Briggs warned. The lead truck sped up, aiming for the rear quarter panel. It slammed into the side of the SUV, pushing the back wheels out of alignment. The armored car fishtailed, the tires smoking as they lost traction on the dirty pavement. "Hold on!" Maverick shouted, tightening his grip around Jennifer. The SUV spun out of control. It slid sideways across the alley and hit a concrete loading dock. The world turned upside down. The heavy vehicle flipped onto its side, the metal frame groaning under the brutal stress. It skidded across the pavement in a shower of sparks, the horrible grinding noise filling Jennifer's ears. The SUV slammed into a brick wall and stopped dead. Smoke poured from the ruined engine block. The smell of gasoline and burning rubber filled the cabin. Jennifer hung sideways in Maverick's grip. Her ears rang. Her shoulder throbbed with a dull, aching pain. "Are you hurt?" Maverick demanded, his voice tight. "I'm okay," she gasped, coughing on the smoke. Maverick kicked the jammed passenger door above them. The metal hinges buckled, but the door refused to open. The frame was crushed. They were trapped inside a steel cage. Outside, the sound of heavy boots hit the pavement. Corbin's men surrounded the wreck. The hunt was over, and the lone wolf was cornered. Chapter 21. Thick, gray smoke clouded Jennifer's vision and burned her eyes. She coughed, clinging to the leather seat as the wrecked SUV rested on its side. Above them, the crushed passenger door refused to budge. Outside, heavy boots crunched against the pavement. Corbin's men circled the vehicle. "They have crowbars," Briggs rasped from the front seat. The steering column pinned the enforcer's leg, trapping him in the driver's side. Blood dripped down his forehead. "They plan to pry the windshield out and drag us through the glass." Maverick braced his boots against the jammed metal door above them. He pushed. The steel frame groaned, but the crushed hinges held fast. Human strength could not break the cage. "Turn around," Maverick ordered Jennifer, his voice tight with strain. "What?" she choked out, wiping tears from her stinging eyes. "Turn your face to the seat and close your eyes," he commanded. He grabbed her shoulder and pushed her down against the leather cushions. "Do not look at me until I say so." Jennifer buried her face in her arms. He is going to do something crazy, she thought, her heart hammering against her ribs. A harsh, ragged breath echoed in the small cabin. Maverick let go of his control. He stopped fighting the inner beast and threw the gates wide open. The voluntary shift began. A sickening crack filled the air. Jennifer squeezed her eyes shut, pressing her hands over her ears, but she could not block out the sound of bones snapping. Maverick let out a guttural roar that vibrated through the floorboards. His spine arched, breaking and reshaping in a brutal display of supernatural power. Fabric tore as his black t-shirt and dark jeans shredded under the sudden, violent expansion of muscle and bone. It sounded like a car crash happening inside the cabin. The transformation demanded a brutal toll. Younger wolves feared the pain, but the former alpha embraced the agony, using it to fuel his rage. The crunching of bones stopped. A deep, vibrating growl replaced the human breathing. Jennifer peeked through her fingers. A giant, terrifying beast crouched in the space beside her. The wolf possessed a coat as dark as midnight shadows, muscles bunched under thick fur. Razor-sharp claws dug deep into the ruined leather upholstery. The predator radiated a blistering body heat, acting like a furnace in the cramped space. The beast looked up at the jammed passenger door. He coiled his powerful hind legs and launched himself upward. Crash! The wolf hit the metal frame like a freight train. The crushed steel hinges shrieked and snapped. The heavy armored door ripped free from the chassis, flying out into the narrow alleyway. It struck the pavement with a deafening clatter. Daylight poured into the cabin. The wolf scrambled out of the opening, his claws finding traction on the exterior paneling. Shouts of panic erupted outside. Corbin's thugs expected a trapped billionaire. They got a nightmare instead. Jennifer pulled herself up, peering over the edge of the doorframe. The combat lasted less than 30 seconds. The dark wolf moved with a blur of lethal speed. He tackled the first attacker, knocking the man into a brick wall. A second thug swung a heavy iron crowbar. The wolf ducked, snapped his jaws around the weapon, and yanked it away, tossing the man across the alley like a rag doll. The third attacker dropped his weapon and ran for the main street. Silence fell over the alley, broken by the hiss of the dying engine. The beast stood amidst the scattered debris. He turned his towering head toward the wrecked SUV. He locked eyes with Jennifer. His gaze retained a spark of the man she knew, a fierce, protective intelligence burning behind the wild stare. "Alpha," Briggs groaned from the front seat. "Shift back. The cops are coming." The wolf gave Jennifer one last look before ducking behind a nearby dumpster. The awful sound of bones snapping and reforming echoed again. 30 seconds later, Maverick stepped out into the alley. He wore a spare gray sweatshirt and loose athletic pants pulled from Briggs's emergency go bag, which the enforcer managed to toss through the broken windshield. Maverick walked to the edge of the wrecked frame. He reached down, grabbed Jennifer by the waist, and hoisted her out of the cage. "We need a new ride," Maverick stated, his voice raspy from the shift. He pointed toward the idling black pickup truck the thugs left behind. "Briggs, cut yourself loose. We are taking their truck." Chapter 22. The stolen pickup truck sat parked outside room 4 of the Starlight Motel. The faded neon sign flickered outside the window, casting a harsh red glow across the dingy room. Peeling wallpaper covered the walls, and a single, lumpy mattress took up most of the floor space. Jennifer sat on the edge of the bed. She slipped her mustard yellow hoodie off, wincing as a sharp pain flared in her left shoulder. The crash left a dark, ugly bruise spreading across her skin. She grabbed a towel from the tiny bathroom, ran it under the cold tap, and pressed the damp cloth against the injury. Maverick paced the length of the room. He wore the spare gray sweatshirt and athletic pants. The voluntary shift drained him. His movements lacked their usual terrifying precision. The fast healing system burned through his energy reserves, leaving him exhausted and restless. "Sit down before you fall over," Jennifer told him, adjusting the cold towel. Maverick stopped pacing. He grabbed a rickety wooden chair from the corner, dragged it to the center of the room, and sat down facing her. He rested his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped together. Without the platinum signet ring, his left hand looked strange and bare. "My shoulder hurts, and I bit my tongue during the crash," Jennifer said, filling the silence. She tasted the sharp copper tang of her own blood. "But I am alive, thanks to you." Maverick stared at the floor. "I dragged you into a war. You almost died in that alley." "I signed the contract," she reminded him. "I chose to play the game." "The contract is void," Maverick countered. He lifted his head, locking his dark eyes on hers. "The council took my title. I have no corporate seats to protect. I have no wealth to offer you. The deal is dead, Jennifer." The words stole the air from her lungs. The fake engagement shielded them from the truth. Without the legal document, they were just a ruined billionaire and a broke blogger hiding in a cheap motel. "You gave up your entire life," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You threw away your pack because you refused to bite me. Why?" Maverick let out a slow, ragged breath. The cold, unreadable mask he wore for the public shattered into pieces. The raw honesty underneath left him exposed. "Because my inner beast does not care about corporate empires," Maverick admitted, his voice dropping to a low, rough hum. "The wolf claims you, and the man agrees. I would burn this entire city to the ground before I let anyone hurt you." Jennifer swallowed hard. Her heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs. "We are supposed to be fake, a media stunt." "Nothing about this is fake," he said. He stood up from the wooden chair. He crossed the short distance between them and stopped right in front of her. He reached out, his long fingers cupping her jaw. His thumb brushed over her cheekbone. The blistering heat of his skin sent a jolt of electricity racing straight to her core. "I am a rogue wolf with a target on my back," Maverick murmured, his face inches from hers. "I should tell you to run. I should put you on a bus out of the state and never look back." "Try it," she challenged, tilting her chin up. "I don't run from a fight." A dark, genuine smile pulled at the corner of his mouth. He leaned down and closed the distance. The kiss started slow, a desperate search for comfort after a brush with death. But the second her hands tangled in his shirt, the spark ignited into a raging fire. Maverick groaned, a deep vibration rattling his chest. He shifted his grip, wrapping his arms around her waist and pulling her flush against his chest. Jennifer dropped the cold towel. She forgot about the bruised shoulder. She forgot about the dangerous rival pack hunting them down. She pulled him closer, matching his desperate, hungry pace. The line between a business deal and reality vanished, burned away by the raw chemistry between them. Maverick pushed her back against the lumpy mattress. The rickety bed frame groaned under their combined weight. He broke the kiss just long enough to catch his breath, his eyes burning with a fierce, possessive fire. "You are mine," he promised, his voice rough and certain. Jennifer pulled him back down. The fake relationship died in the wreckage of the SUV, leaving something far more dangerous in its place. Chapter 23. Sunlight crept through the gaps in the motel blinds, casting thin yellow lines across the lumpy mattress. Jennifer woke up, her arm reaching across the bed. She found empty space and cold sheets. She sat up, pulling the blanket over her chest. The room was empty. Maverick's boots were gone from the corner of the room. "Maverick?" she called out. Silence answered her. She threw her legs over the side of the bed and pulled her combat boots on. She grabbed her canvas tote bag from the floor and dug past her empty pepper spray canister. She pulled out her cracked smartphone and held the power button down. The dead battery icon flashed once before the screen faded to black. A terrible, sinking feeling formed in her stomach. Maverick left to scout the area or find food, leaving her unprotected. Crash! The motel room door splintered inward, the cheap wooden frame exploding. The deadbolt hit the far wall with a sharp crack. Jennifer jumped back, her heart slamming against her ribs. She dropped the dead phone onto the floor. Corbin walked through the ruined doorway. The Northern Alpha traded his stark white suit for tactical combat gear. He wore dark cargo pants and a reinforced vest. A cruel, triumphant smile stretched across his face. Two of his enforcers stepped into the room behind him, blocking the only exit. "Good morning, sunshine," Corbin mocked, stepping over the broken wood. "I see the mighty Alpha left his pet unattended. He thinks he can hide you in a rundown motel? How pathetic. The board of directors gave me the green light to clean up his mess." Jennifer backed up until her shoulders hit the wall. She shoved her hand into her canvas tote bag and wrapped her fingers around the empty pepper spray canister. It was a useless piece of plastic, but she needed to bluff. "Get out," Jennifer demanded, pulling the canister out and pointing it at his face. She forced her hand to stay steady. "Maverick is right outside. He will tear you apart." Corbin laughed, a dark, grating sound. "Maverick is a mile away, stealing supplies from a convenience store. My scouts tracked his movements. He is a rogue without a pack. He lost his edge." "Take one more step and I blind you," she threatened, her thumb hovering over the broken trigger mechanism. Corbin did not even blink. He moved with supernatural speed, crossing the room in a blur. He swatted her hand. The empty pepper spray canister flew across the room, bouncing off the faded wallpaper. He grabbed her by the throat, his grip tight enough to steal her breath, but loose enough to keep her conscious. He slammed her against the wall. The impact rattled her teeth. "You caused a lot of trouble for a weak human," Corbin growled, his face inches from hers. "Maverick gave up his empire to keep you breathing. I want to see what he gives up to get you back." He turned his head toward his enforcers. "Bring her to the lumberyard. We set the bait." Corbin released her throat, letting her slump against the wall, gasping for air. One of the enforcers grabbed her arms, hauling her toward the broken doorway. 10 minutes later, Maverick walked into the motel parking lot, carrying a plastic bag filled with bottled water and bandages. He stopped. His dark eyes locked onto room 4. The door hung off its hinges, swaying in the morning breeze. The splintered wood revealed the empty room inside. Maverick dropped the plastic bag. Water bottles rolled across the asphalt. He sprinted into the room, his boots crushing the splintered wood. The room sat empty. No blood, no sign of a struggle besides the tossed bag. Corbin took her alive to use as leverage. Jennifer's canvas tote bag sat on the floor, spilled open. The empty pepper spray canister rested in the corner. Maverick picked up the empty canister, his knuckles turning white as he crushed the plastic casing in his fist. The cold, corporate mask he wore for years vanished forever. The beast broke its chains. A raw, terrifying roar ripped from his chest, shaking the cheap motel walls. Maverick threw the broken pieces of plastic aside, his grip tightening on the plastic receiver of the street corner payphone. Briggs answered on the first ring. Alpha. Chapter 24. I am not the Alpha anymore, Maverick replied into the payphone receiver, his voice a low, lethal hum that promised violence. Corbin took her. He hit the safe house. You are the Alpha to the men who matter, Briggs corrected without hesitation. Elder Coraline and the council tried to lock down the armory. Half the enforcers refused their orders. We renounced the council. We stand with you. Corbin took her to the northern lumber yard, Maverick stated, staring at the broken motel door. I am going in. I do not expect anyone to follow me into a suicide mission. We are 5 minutes out, Briggs promised. Maverick ended the call. He walked out of the motel room and climbed into the stolen pickup truck. He drove with reckless speed, tearing through the city streets. The northern pack operated out of a fortified lumber yard on the edge of the river. It was a maze of stacked timber, heavy machinery, and chain-link fences. He pulled up to the main gate. 2 northern guards stood behind the iron bars, holding heavy steel batons. Maverick did not hit the brakes. He slammed the gas pedal to the floor. The pickup truck crashed through the chain-link gate, tearing the metal doors off their hinges. The truck spun into the dirt yard, kicking up a cloud of brown dust. Maverick kicked his door open and stepped out before the vehicle even stopped moving. The 2 guards charged him. Maverick did not shift. He did not need claws to break them. He ducked under a swinging baton, drove his fist into the first guard's ribs, and threw him into a stack of wooden pallets. The second guard lunged. Maverick caught the man's arm, twisted it until the bone popped, and tossed him into the dirt. Engines roared behind him. 3 black SUVs tore through the ruined gate. Briggs and a dozen loyal enforcers piled out, armed with tactical gear and sheer loyalty. "Clear the yard!" Maverick roared, his alpha command ringing loud and true. "Find her!" The lumber yard turned into a battlefield. Northern wolves poured out of the warehouse. The clash of bodies echoed through the compound. Punches landed with sickening thuds. Loyal enforcers fought back to back, holding the line against the northern swarm. Maverick ignored the chaos. He walked straight through the war zone, his eyes locked on the main warehouse doors. A northern soldier stepped in his path. Maverick grabbed the man by the throat and threw him aside without breaking his stride. He kicked the heavy metal warehouse doors open. The interior was cavernous and dim, lit by industrial overhead lights. At the far end of the building, Corbin stood on a raised metal catwalk. Jennifer knelt on the grated floor beside him, her hands tied behind her back. She looked down, her eyes widening as Maverick stepped into the light. "I told you he would come!" Corbin yelled over the noise of the battle outside. The northern alpha leaned against the metal railing. The mighty Maverick, throwing away his life for a human. "Let her go," Maverick demanded, his boots ringing against the concrete floor as he walked toward the metal stairs. "You have no ring. You have no territory," Corbin mocked, drawing a long, jagged hunting knife from his belt. "You walk into my compound and demand favors?" I don't demand favors, Maverick said, stopping at the base of the stairs. He looked up, his dark eyes burning with an unholy fire. The beast inside him clawed at the surface, ready to break free. I demand a challenge, single combat, alpha to alpha. Corbin laughed. You are not an alpha. Then come down here and prove it, Maverick challenged, his voice cutting through the cavernous room. Or are you afraid a rogue wolf will snap your neck in front of your own men? Corbin's smile vanished. His pride took the bait. He pointed the knife at Jennifer, warning her to stay down, and descended the metal stairs. The final fight was set. Chapter 25. Corbin's boots rang on the metal stairs, descending toward the concrete floor. He gripped the jagged hunting knife, flipping the weapon in his hand. Maverick stood dead still, waiting. He wore the cheap white cotton t-shirt he snagged at the convenience store and Briggs's spare athletic pants. He lacked armor, a pack title, and full energy reserves, but the beast under his skin craved violence. I am going to mount your head on my wall, Corbin promised, stepping off the last stair. Corbin lunged. He swung the blade in a lethal arc, aiming right for Maverick's throat. Maverick dropped low. He dodged the steel edge, his reflexes driven by pure instinct. He drove his fist into Corbin's ribs. Bone cracked under the impact. Corbin grunted, stumbling back, but he recovered fast. The Northern Alpha slashed backward, catching the Maverick's white t-shirt and tearing a line across his ribs. Blood welled from the shallow cut. He is too fast, Jennifer panicked, watching from the metal catwalk above. She pulled at the ropes binding her wrists, ignoring the burn of the rough fibers against her skin. Break the rope, Jenny! Do something! Corbin pressed the advantage. He thrust the knife forward, aiming for the heart. Maverick did not dodge. He stepped into the strike. He caught Corbin's wrist mid-air. The impact echoed through the cavernous warehouse. Maverick's grip clamped down like a vice. He twisted the arm upward. Corbin let out a guttural scream as his wrist shattered. The jagged hunting knife slipped from his fingers and clattered against the concrete floor, spinning out of reach. Maverick did not hesitate. He grabbed Corbin by the tactical vest and slammed him onto the ground. The concrete floor cracked under the Northern Alpha's weight. Maverick pinned him down, placing a knee squarely on Corbin's ruined chest. He drew his fist back and drove it into Corbin's jaw. Yield, Maverick commanded. The Alpha voice rolled out of him, a booming, suffocating wave of pure dominance that rattled the industrial lights above. The warehouse fell dead silent. The clash of bodies outside stopped. Northern soldiers and loyal enforcers crowded the open doorway, watching the brutal display. Corbin struggled, blood dripping from his mouth, but the sheer force of Maverick's presence held him in place. The rogue wolf radiated a power that defied elder titles and council laws. He commanded the room. I yield, Corbin choked out, dropping his gaze to the concrete. Maverick stood up. He kicked the jagged knife across the floor. He looked toward the doorway, his chest heaving. The Northern soldiers dropped their weapons. They bowed their heads, exposing their necks in a primal show of submission. The loyal enforcers, led by a limping Briggs, let out a roaring cheer of victory. The city was theirs. Maverick turned his back on the defeated rival. He took the metal stairs 2 at a time, his boots ringing against the grating. He reached the catwalk and dropped to his knees beside Jennifer. He reached behind her back. His long fingers snapped the thick ropes binding her wrists with zero effort. Jennifer brought her arms forward, rubbing her raw skin. She looked at the blood staining his torn white t-shirt, taking in his exhausted posture. The words stole the air from her lungs. You look terrible. You talk too much, he countered, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her shoulder. Her bruised muscles ached at the contact, but she did not care. She wrapped her arms around his neck. The frantic beat of his heart hammered against her chest. He was alive. We survived, she thought, closing her eyes and resting her chin on his shoulder. The threat was gone. Corbin surrendered his territory. Maverick proved his dominance to the entire pack. But as Briggs climbed the stairs to escort them out of the warehouse, a cold realization hit Jennifer. The turf war ended. The fake engagement contract sat null and void. She had no reason to stay in his world. "The elders fled the city," Briggs reported, his voice cutting through the quiet. The enforcer favored his uninjured leg, leaning against the metal railing. "The council heard about the raid. They abandoned the stone building and left the platinum ring on the table. The pack waits for your orders, Alpha." Maverick stood up, pulling Jennifer to her feet. He kept an arm wrapped tight around her waist. "Tell them to secure the borders. Send Corbin's men back across the river. We go home." Jennifer leaned against his side as they walked down the stairs. Her combat boots felt heavy. She survived the crossfire, but the hardest part was just beginning. She had to pack her bags. Chapter 26. The private elevator doors slid open. Maverick punched the code into the digital keypad, and the heavy deadbolt retracted with a mechanical click. They stepped inside the penthouse. The space remained identical to how they left it the morning prior. The unaccepted laptop, the cracked photograph, and the stalker note sat on the thick glass coffee table. A loud, demanding meow echoed from the kitchen. Flaire trotted into the living room, his tail held high. The tuxedo cat paced around Jennifer's combat boots, complaining about 24 hours of isolation. He wore his red velvet bow tie like a badge of honor. "I know, buddy. I missed you too," Jennifer sighed, reaching down to scratch his ears. Maverick walked past them. He headed straight down the hallway toward the only bedroom. He needed a shower and a fresh set of clothes. The fast-healing system sealed the cut on his ribs, but the torn, blood-stained t-shirt belonged in the trash. Jennifer stood in the living room. Her body ached. Her left shoulder throbbed with a dull, persistent pain from the car crash. She walked over to the white sofa and picked up her canvas tote bag. "The job is done," she told herself. "Corbin is defeated. The elders are gone. He does not need a fake bride anymore." She walked into the kitchen and grabbed Flaire's bag of premium salmon pâté. She stuffed it into her tote bag. She moved to the coffee table and picked up her mother's cracked photograph, sliding the frame inside. She left the expensive new laptop on the glass surface. She refused to take a handout. She zipped the canvas bag shut and hauled it over her uninjured shoulder. She picked up the velvet pet stroller. "Come on, Flaire, time to go," she called out. "Where are you going?" Jennifer froze. Maverick stood at the edge of the hallway. He wore clean, dark jeans and a fresh, pitch-black t-shirt. His wet hair clung to his forehead. He stared at the tote bag slung over her shoulder, his jaw locking tight. "My apartment is ruined, so I need to find a motel," Jennifer explained, forcing a casual tone she did not feel. She chewed her bottom lip. "The turf war is over. The council fled. You have your city back. The media stunt served its purpose." Maverick walked into the living room. He did not say a word. He walked over to the sleek wooden console table near the front door. He pulled the top drawer open. He reached inside and pulled out the folded legal papers, the fake engagement contract. He held the papers up in his right hand. With a quick, sharp motion, he ripped the document in half. He tore the pieces again, dropping the shredded paper into the nearby trash bin. Jennifer's breath hitched. "What are you doing?" "Voiding a useless piece of paper," Maverick stated. He crossed the rug and stopped inches away from her. The undeniable magnetic pull flared between them, erasing the distance. "I told you in the motel. The deal is dead. My inner beast claims you, and I claim you." "I am a human," she argued, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I don't have pack lineage. I can't survive a bite. Your people will never accept me." "My people just watched you walk into a war zone," Maverick corrected, raising a hand. His long fingers brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "They will accept you, or they will answer to me. You are not my fake ex, Jennifer. You are my real future." Tears stung her eyes. The crushing fear of eviction and isolation vanished, replaced by a terrifying, thrilling certainty. She dropped the canvas tote bag. It hit the hardwood floor with a soft thud. She reached up and grabbed the front of his pitch-black t-shirt. She pulled him down, pressing her lips to his. Maverick groaned, his arms wrapping tight around her waist. He kissed her back with a fierce, possessive hunger. The kiss held no cameras, no press reporters, and no fake smiles. It was a promise. A sleek black and white paw swatted Maverick's leg. They broke apart. Flaire sat on the rug, glaring up at the giant werewolf. The cat let out a short, demanding meow, requiring a final pet before accepting the new living arrangement. Maverick let out a low rumble of laughter. He leaned down and scratched the tuxedo cat right behind the ears. "You run the house, little guy. I know." Jennifer smiled, leaning her head against Maverick's chest. The broken door at her old apartment did not matter anymore. She was exactly where she belonged. The end. Quick favor, don't go anywhere yet. If you thought Jennifer was crazy for looking into a camera and calling a ruthless werewolf alpha her toxic ex, wait until you meet the heroine in the next story on your screen. You have to hear this disaster unfold. Click the video on your screen right now. It is pure chaos.